Good evening, City Council. Good evening, City Manager, and good evening, community. My name is DJ Goldsmith. I'm currently the Fire Chief here at Kittitas Valley Fire and Rescue. I was here in front of you all here a couple weeks ago just to give you a quick introduction, and just wanted to follow up on that and introduce our new Deputy Chief as well. I'll say a few words, and then I'll let Deputy Chief Moen have a couple of words as well. Again, I'm very excited to be here in front of you all to start building a relationship and continue the great work that former Deputy Chief Elliott and Chief Sinclair has continued. So one of the reasons I'm here tonight is just to let you know that we want to be good partners with you all and really value your opinion and what you have to say, what type of service we provide for y'all. In the next coming months, we're going to start getting a citizen advisory group and some stakeholders together for looking at a long-term strategic plan for the fire department. Obviously, City of Ellensburg is in that and would really like to have some participation from you all and even some of our community members. So watch our social media platforms. We're going to start putting some information out here in the next couple months on that. But again, just really wanted to establish a communication and just say hi and thank you. And if you need anything, please let us know. Deputy Chief Moen.
The council, my name is Chris Moen. I'm not new to the area. I've been with KVFR for 30 years. So I'm kind of the old guy, but in a new position. I have some big shoes to fill. Took over Rich Elliott's position. So I just want to basically say what the chief said. We're here to help, and we want to give you the service that you want and deserve. So please reach out if you have any questions to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stand by for just a sec. So we're going to move on to consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Tool vote aye opposed. That motion passes.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second. Yes.
Yes, there's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I tool vote aye opposed. That motion passes. We are up to page 95 in the packet. This is item 6A. This is board and commission appointment and reappointment. And we are considering PTAC and environmental commission, and there will be an opportunity for public comment. Let's go on the board reappointments. Page 95.
Yes, 2 appointments. Yeah.
Chair Alwyn, you have 2 appointments. One is for Ann Miner's appointment to the Public Transit Advisory Committee, and the second is Brenda for that's a reappointment to the Environmental Commission. Is it? Those have both gone through the process, and I guess are they both here? They're both here. So.
Okay, and both have received the support of their commissions or their committees. Is there? Yeah, is there? Oh, you're here. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself? Okay, thank you.
My name is Ann Miner. I have been a resident of Kittitas County for about 20 years. I am a resident of Roslyn. I'm a business owner in Ellensburg, and I'm also I'm not primarily a transit user, but I am a regular transit user. And that's one of the things that fuels my interest in serving on the committee.
Awesome, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? All right. We're a little discombobulated here.
No.
My bad. Thank you for being willing to serve. Okay, so.
Brenda is also available.
If you want to.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you so much for this opportunity again for a second term with Environmental Commission. A couple of things that we're excited about this year are continuing our quest to achieve the gold status for the bicycle-friendly community. So we're working on some different ideas for that. And out of that came some recycling ideas for bikes in our community, which led to a community-wide recycling event with Waste Management, which I believe was on their contract proposal that you would have received last year. So a couple of things that are going to be new coming down the pike that I'm excited to be part of. So thank you so much. Are there any questions?
No, thank you
All right,
again.
thank you.
Okay, council, do you want to handle them together? Any public comment? Okay. Motion.
I would move that the appointment of Ann Miner to the PTAC and the reappointment of Brenda DeVore to the Environmental Commission.
Second.
Motion second to approve the appointment of Ann Minor, to the Public Transportation Advisory Committee and Brenda DeVore to a reappointment to the Environmental Commission. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, two will vote aye, opposed. That motion passes. Thank you. We move on to item 9A, page 102 in the packet. This is second reading and adoption of ordinance
Do you want
49.
to do public comment for number 7?
Oh, crap, sorry. All right. We're not running a study session right up to the end next time. Okay, anybody in the audience wish to speak? We have nobody online. Okay. So we move to item 9A, page 102. This is second reading adoption of ordinance 4953, which would potentially amend the city code, Title 15 Land Development Code, and there will be an opportunity for public comment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dan Carlson, Community Development Director. Ordinance 4953 includes amendments regarding accessory dwelling units, addressing House Bill 1337. It also includes amendments related to goals of the Housing Action Plan and strategies for creating more housing and more middle housing. It includes options for extension of plats and binding site plans, which we didn't have in the code before. And then there's some minor cleanup items, including some references that we had to transfer development rights when we don't have that program. So the Planning Commission considered the proposed amendments at a public hearing on November 14th of 2024. Recommended approval of all of the amendments with one revision that they recommend go forward. And staff did make that prior to bringing those amendments to you for hearing at the last meeting. So the City Council held a public hearing on January 6th of 2025, approved the proposed amendments, and conducted the first reading of Ordinance 4953. Since that time, staff did discover one additional reference to TDRs that was in the ordinance that we hadn't caught before. So made that change to strike that out in the ordinance that's before you for the second reading. And so with that, staff recommends that council conduct the second reading and adoption of ordinance 4953 with the staff recommended amendment that was included in your agenda report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Any comments from the audience here? Nothing online. Council.
Mr. Mayor, I move second reading and adoption of ordinance 4953, City Code Title 15 Land Development Code, with the staff recommended amendment as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4953 as presented in our packet, which would amend the Land Development Code. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Beauchamp,
Yes.
Goodloe,
Yes.
Lilquist,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
An ordinance relating to the City of Ellensburg Land Development Code Title 15, amending Chapter 15.130 definitions, amending Chapter 15.260 subdivisions, amending Chapter 15.330 density bonus incentives, amending Chapter 15.540 housing type standards, and amending Chapter 15.550 off-street parking.
Thank you. Item 9B, page 166 in the packet. This is resolution 2025-01, which would provide for the allocation of the 2025 lodging tax fund. There will be an opportunity for public comment.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor, Kelly Vandenberg, Arts and Economic Development Manager for the city. Before you this evening, you have Resolution 2025-01, the allocation of the 2025 lodging tax funds. The city previously entered interlocal agreement with Kittitas County for the annual consolidation countywide process for the award and distribution of these funds. The interlocal agreement, each participating municipality contributes 13%. The city of Ellensburg's 2025 amount is $97,595.29. Below included in this resolution, you'll see the Ellensburg recommended funding allocation for each of the recommended applicants. Additionally, on the dais before you also this evening, you have the per applicant, per municipality breakdown for your review. We ask the council this evening to move to adopt the resolution 2025-01, approving the allocation and distribution of our 2025 lodging tax funds for special events and projects as presented this evening.
Council questions of staff.
Just a comment. I appreciate seeing the full picture because I thought it was really weird that we were paying for Upper County stuff. So, but seeing this now, my question is, how is it administrated, and is it cheaper administratively to just divide it out how it is, where every jurisdiction is paying a small part of every event, or how it's been done in the past, where there's maybe 5 events that the city of Ellensburg pays for and just us? And I don't know.
I
If
wouldn't
it's the
have an
county.
answer for you tonight, but I can certainly bring that to the consolidated meeting in February.
It's something to consider for next year.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
This is fine.
Any other questions of staff? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak? Nobody's online.
Oh,
Yeah,
What'd
let's
I
get
do?
rid of that chief stuff. I
didn't do
don't want
that.
to see Kansas City. I don't know more Kansas City.
Did anybody
On my
want to
screen.
baseball scores? I don't know.
That's not a fun.
At least it wasn't something really inappropriate.
All right.
No, just no more Chiefs.
Sorry about that, Delana.
No problem.
Okay, so we had no public comment and no additional questions for staff, council.
I'll move to adopt the resolution 2025-01, approving the allocation and distribution of the 2025 lodging tax funds for special events and projects as presented.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve resolution 2025-01, which approves the allocation of the 2025 lodging tax funds. I'll let the motion maker discuss this if you choose to. I have a comment.
I think it's a good process. The consolidated process is a good process. I understand there's maybe some change in staff that kind of made things different than I'm used to, but I appreciate that Ellensburg can be a part of it, streamlined process like that.
If I may, both the county staff person and myself were both new this year, so it was a wonderful learning curve. And I think having a dedicated staff person that also isn't, has a stake in economic development for the city of Ellensburg will also help shape kind of that process for the future and really look at that process and shape the clay, if you will.
Other comment here is just, again, both to you and to your county counterpart is thank you for coordinating all these efforts. It is important that even though you got distinction between the city and county, that we are all members of Kittitas County. And so this helps out with our general economic development, which is going to be great for us. So thank you.
You're welcome. The tourism in Cle Elum benefits Ellensburg as well.
Yep.
And I guess that's kind of the point for this whole thing. And we're mirroring this through our discussions with COG, through our conversations, but more specifically on economic development, that, we're trying to look past our borders and recognize that things that happen in other communities, and yes, we're all parts of the county. Obviously, we're not parts of the Roslyn and Cle Elum and Kittitas communities directly, but we're trying to look at this more transparently. And I think that that concept allows the money to be spent, sort of more broadly and attract new events and new visitors to the community, some of which are going to drive through Ellensburg, purchase gas, food, and stay here, regardless of whether the event occurs here.
One of the
So-
keys for economic development and tourism growth is that experience marketing. And these events speak directly to that. It brings different experiences throughout the county that will benefit each of the municipalities.
So Kelly, just as I sit on LTAC, so I know we talked about it a lot, but streamlining and making the application process a little easier for these events, because we had very few applicants this year to take advantage of the amount of dollars that were available. So that's something that we really need to work on as well with the county and ourselves.
And it's the process, having gone through it now, I'm not sure if it's much streamlining the process as is educating the community about the process and making sure that they understand the funds are available. And that is one of the things that we have talked about, is really doing some of that pre-education, particularly with the chamber. They have some wonderful classes and workshops available for that.
Okay, so we'll redirect to our motion, which has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Item 9C, page 171. This is a professional services agreement between the city of Ellensburg and Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, and there will be an opportunity for public comment. Thank you.
Good evening again. Kelly Vandenberg, City of Ellensburg, Arcus and Economic Development Manager. Before you this evening, you do have the 2025 Professional Services Agreement between the City of Ellensburg and the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, specifically for the, sorry, I have to open the wrong file. Sorry. The Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce is seeking to renew their professional service agreement with the City of Ellensburg related to tourism, marketing, and advertising, as well as marketing, operational visitor center information within the City of Ellensburg. The previous agreement did expire in 2024, at the end of 2024. This will be the renewal of that professional services agreement that we have found incredibly beneficial for the City of Ellensburg to help guide our tourism efforts. Differences between last year's contract and this year's agreement. You will see we did look at how data is gathered, and there's a more robust data gathering system. We looked at some of the metrics and looked at how what metrics were effective for gathering and fine-tuned that a little bit. And additionally, you will see an increase on this year's agreement, predominantly due to the rising cost of living as well as services. We asked this evening that you move to approve the 2025 Professional Services Agreement between the City of Ellensburg and the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, as recommended by the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and authorized by the city manager's signature on the agreement.
Council, any questions of staff?
Question, and I've gone to the kind of the scope of work. This is question / comment. The metrics of evaluation I'll be interested in. When I first saw the cost associated with it, I'll be honest, I raised my eyebrow at it, just trying to understand the aspects of it. I will say I'm not a marketing expert, and so that's a part of this, is that I don't know the platforms, I don't know the resources, I don't know the things that need to be done for effective marketing, but I know that it's important. And just as part of our previous conversation, our ability to remove the silos between different entities within Kittitas County, where it's CLIA, Roslyn, Kittitas, and those things is really important. So this is a really important dynamic of it. I will be interested in, as we explore the scope of work, specifically Exhibit A and Exhibit B with the metrics of evaluation, how we're tracking as far as those visitors, the impact, social media engagement. Those are things that are going to be very important, because I understand this is essentially a 1-year agreement, right? And so this will give us an opportunity to kind of see lessons learned from it and see what we can do to benefit it. But it's absolutely important, but it'll be equally as important for data-driven decision-making for next year.
We receive a monthly update with regards to metrics and a quarterly update right now. And we have found those to be very helpful, particularly on visitor information, on social media engagement, and really looking at what people are coming to the community for. So we have that data. I've been really pleased with the reporting out so far.
Any other questions of staff?
Periodically, we have, I guess at least once or twice a year, if we could bring that to council. And I think that's a
Yeah.
deliverable.
In fact, I would love it if, not to put Amy on the spot, but having the chamber come and do a report to council, I think would be very beneficial.
Agreed.
Sorry, Amy, put you on the spot. I know you don't mind.
Yeah, I think it's in the contract.
It is in the contract.
Any further questions? Anybody in the audience? You know all the rules, right?
Yeah, good evening. For the record, my name is Amy McGuffin. I'm the president CEO of the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce. Address is 609 North Main Street. Thank you again for the opportunity. I was just thinking about this for myself. It has been 14 years that I've been involved in lodging tax for the city of Ellensburg. And one of the things that I think is interesting, it's just like fashion. I feel like we're wearing bell bottoms in 2011 and bell bottoms are back in 2025. We want to focus a little bit on the data. What we are finding is even though social media platforms are the way to get some information, but we do feel that people are making their travel decisions more of the traditional media. So that's going to be a little bit harder because now we're going back to how do we track that somebody actually saw an ad on TV and actually engaged into that ad or came into town. So the numbers that you see for the data process, it's really going to help us drive who's engaging, who's actually spending money in here. And so we're really excited about the collaboration of both special events, because that's really where we're going to track people that come for a destination purpose, or like Kelly said, experience-based. But what's going to be really interesting is we are also purchasing what's called an event impact calculator. So we're able to come to you as city council so you can make a data-driven decision based on sales tax, hotel motel stays, and all of the derivatives other than engagement. So it's really important for us to keep that mindset of always encouraging, always challenging, and then educating our downtown businesses on how to communicate some of those that information to us. Because we can only drive, but if it's not helpful, we need to switch gears, right? And so that's kind of where we're at. So we look forward to 2025. I think we're going to have a challenge. Tourism trend right now, people are staying home. So we gotta encourage them to do it all in a tank of gas. And we've been there before on the similar ad, which is you can make it to Ellensburg from anywhere in the state of Washington on a tank of gas. So we're excited. If you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to help if that's something that Mayor Elliott would like us to do. But thank you very much for this opportunity.
You have any questions of Amy? Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the 2025 professional service agreement between the city of Ellensburg and Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce as recommended by the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and authorize the city manager's signature on the agreement.
Motion second to approve the 2025 professional services agreement between the city of Ellensburg and Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, which would authorize the city manager to sign said agreement. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We move to item 12A, page 189. This is the manager's report. And nobody gets to make public comment when she talks.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me just share this for a second here. I accidentally omitted this from your packet. Just a reminder that Ellensburg Police Department is now, it has, whoops, excuse me. Sorry, I'm going to hide this. Now has their survey, their annual survey up. It's listed online. They have hard copies, I believe, here at City Hall, but also at EPD. If you don't want to go online, before with this a QR code, you take a photo of that, and it'll take you to the website to actually take the survey. This is their community safety survey. This is an annual event, and their goal is to measure over time impacts on community safety, and it's already driven some programs in our community this last year. So please share this with folks. And we wanted to reach all the corners of our community. So take it yourselves and share it with others. It'll be open till the end of January. Just a reminder, at the next meeting on February 3rd, we do have a public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement plan. Our staff have been doing a phenomenal job at getting grants to support the important transportation projects in our community. And so we need to update that transportation improvement plan to reflect some of those dollars. And as a partnership opportunity, Hope Source does an annual point-in-time census. This is done across the country with some very specific standards on doing a census of people who are experiencing homelessness in our communities. So if you want to get out for a day, there's some training in advance. There's some contact information on the manager's report to sign up and volunteer for that day to participate. And then one last item, and that is Unity Park. We are in the final stages. We're still working on a punch list. We've had impacts to delays in delivery. So the flashing around the restrooms, we're still waiting for that. We've had some issues with concrete, waiting for some good weather and some final engineering to actually fix that up. So just final punch lists. And then that, once it's finished, we'll come back to you to put the, to do a bid closure. And so making sure that we close that out. So that's all I have for this evening. And I guess one final thing is we've been trying to reach the Yakima Nation to confirm the March 4th. That's tentatively still our date. Haven't confirmed all of the details. We'll be in touch with you with further information. So thanks.
Thank you. We're going to do council member reports in alphabetical order by first name. David, you're up.
First name.
Thanks about that for a second.
Okay, all right, no report. Thank you.
Delano.
All right, let's see, Law and Justice 2025. So we have a new council chair, our own Ellensburg Police, Cameron Clausen is now the new council chair. We talked about the tow and impound practices that EPD is doing, especially the ones that are tracking over 60 days. So we're trying to clean up that process. Apparently, there's kind of a scope gap after 60 days, and whose responsibility is that? And then we've been looking at the file process for protection orders and recommendations associated with the Spellman records for those. On the Affordable Housing Commission, we set priorities for 2025. I thought I saw Lily in here, if not, but thank you, Lily, for helping us out with that. Just trying to push as much as possible to remove barriers for developers so that we can get more housing in our community. And then my new appointment on the UAC Utility Advisory Committee. It was a great time to be in there because we had all the subdepartments of the city come in and present as far as their goals or the things that they completed in 2024 and the works that they have planned for 2025, which included several of the agenda items like the sewer line on 5G, the electrical upgrades on 5J and 5K. So much appreciated to them and all their efforts. That's it for me.
Cool. Josh.
Yeah, only had the Parks and Rec, but couldn't make it due to a conflict with one of Noah's doctor's appointments. But I do want to say a big congratulations to Ichiro, who earlier today got 99.7% of the vote to make it into the Hall of Fame. And I also encourage EPD to put out a warrant on the one sports writer who voted against him that would have made it unanimous. So hopefully we can get the chief on that. That's it for me.
Nancy.
Nancy Goodlow's.
Nancy Goodlow.
Okay. I wondered if you were going to
Before
go.
Nancy Lilquist.
Yeah, she's Nancy one. I'm Nancy two. Does that matter? Okay. Since the last meeting, we had a COG meeting last Wednesday night, elected new officers for the 25 for 2025. Some interesting discussion about financial allocations and still trying to figure out what a regional structure is going to look like for COG and what that means for the conversations and decisions we're being faced with right now. DEI Commission met. We spent most of our meeting time addressing our goals for 2025 and allocating tasks for various commission members who would like to take the leadership role in making those things happen.
I attended an airport advisory committee meeting. I was reelected vice chair. The Bowers Business Park feasibility study final report was done. And we have a subcommittee meeting next week to take those recommendations and try and prioritize it and bring it down to what do we really want to do and can we do, and what do we do first. And also attended the Utility Advisory Committee meeting, and as usual, Delano asks great questions and had good insight. And I did notice the state released what they funded for affordable housing, and the Pathways Project got about $1 million from the state and about $2 million from the federal government for a $25 million project. So I don't know how they fill that gap, but so that's all I have.
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay, so unfortunately, I was unable to make the parks meeting as well. Got two of us, we both filled. But so the library had their birthday celebration this past week, and it was a big success. We saw a few faces there, and it was good. And they're already planning for next year. And then we did so lodging tax, obviously Kelly we're going into our quiet time now. So all the grants have been awarded, but we're looking forward to a continued success with that program. And then KitCom, we are having great success with the traveling dispatchers that are helping us out right now. And we've got some great people coming through with the program also. So there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for our staffing issues there. We had an update to the 911 software that went very well. Is that correct, Rich? I'm making sure. I always look over and to make sure I'm getting my facts straight here. Yes. And then they are working on, I get this wrong. Is geofencing? Is that what you call it? Okay, so that our 911 center isn't bogged down with repeated calls for issues, so they can be directed out like a fire on the side of the highway. So where you get 100 calls in. So we're working, trying to get that up and running to kind of alleviate some of the flow into the 911 calling. And I think that's all of mine. Yes.
So I'll do some follow-up on a couple things. And first, obviously in a different context, the KitCom thing. So we hired 3 traveling dispatchers, which are sort of like traveling nurses. They're fairly expensive to help us with our staffing crisis. 2 of them arrived and 1 didn't and has been delayed. And the reason he was delayed is he owns a house in Los Angeles. And his house burned down yesterday. So we actually don't have the 3rd one here yet, but when he gets here, we will try to support him and keep his mind off his house. And I would also like to point out, we're having a conversation, and this doesn't necessarily tip my hand as to what I believe in terms of how we use transit or transportation fee or taxes and those types of things. But you only need to look at the airport and realize that there were a lot of missed opportunities for preventative maintenance on the airport, and the airport infrastructure is damaged, and you won't get part of the airport back, and it's going to be difficult and be cumbersome to rebuild even the primary runway. And that's with a lot of outside funding. And so, you look at that and, we obviously don't want to defer maintenance past the point at which it makes any, sort of rational sense. We have to take care of what we have, or we're going to suffer the consequences down the road, and it will cost more. And there isn't a study in the world that'll tell you differently. You have to maintain what you have. EMS meeting, everything is going fine. DDAC, I didn't actually, that's a developmental disabilities committee. I didn't actually make the meeting, but they have moved forward with a very well thought out strategic plan to be implemented. And I will distribute that plan for the council. It's very well put together, and it actually touches on a lot of the issues. It's about housing, it's about transportation, it's about recreation, those types of things, employment, things that, we hear about in other contexts as well. And the last thing I'll say is on the COG meeting, the issue about whether or not the city chooses to participate and at what level and in what context in the county's lobbying efforts at the federal level. That was something that was put forward 2 meetings ago. So we're about 5 weeks into that, and we're probably, it's my fault for not bringing that back to you before today, but that's probably something we want to have a conversation with very briefly, maybe at the next meeting, because we probably shouldn't show up at the next COG meeting having not talked about it, about whether or not we want to participate and what that looks like and what we think we might get as a return on investment for that effort.
Can you let us know what their agenda is for their lobbying efforts before we have that conversation?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not specifically, because they haven't hired somebody and the partners haven't agreed to all put the money in. So the agreement's not there. It's the county's effort at, saying, hey, why don't we pool our resources? And if we're going to have a conversation with our elected representatives at the federal level, let's do it with a consistent voice for Kittitas County. So it's about infrastructure projects. It's about, investing, instead of buying, helping out, South Cle Elum right now has got a big water system issue. Instead of, having them go it alone and trying to convince to get help to get that money, they're basically saying, let's prioritize those projects as a county and pool those resources that we're speaking with one voice, so that we're not canceling each other out and potentially not getting support for something that, might be a good project. So is that fair? Okay. So no specific project, but it's about cooperative lobbying.
And agreeing cooperatively what those priorities are.
Yes.
Okay.
But those decisions haven't been made.
Right.
So, okay. So we'll probably put that on the agenda to have that conversation. And then one other thing that I'd like to put on the agenda sooner rather than later is to follow up with this transportation decision, because whatever we're going to do, it's going to take an effort to convince the public if we choose to put anything on the ballot. And we're sort of beginning to operate on borrowed time. So I would like to put this on one of the next 2 meetings to have that conversation as a council and have us, if we're not ready to make that decision, at least we can start the process rolling. And I think we have to have a decision made. Well, we certainly have to have it made by the deadline to file it, but I'd like it to be well before then.
I would say the caveat to that is having the data that I requested as part of that conversation. Okay.
So maybe the second meeting in February.
Actually, we were prepared to bring it the next meeting.
Okay,
So,
let's
yeah.
do it the next meeting.
Good.
With the data.
So there's a list on our desks
So
about.
the short story with the list, that's a resource page about transportation funding from the Municipal Research and Services Center, MRSC. So they provide a ton of information. They have a handbook on revenues for cities. And so that's the transportation option. Basically, what I wanted to show you is the city does not have very many options for funding transportation. So other than property tax and the Transportation Benefit District, we are the only city in Washington State that uses this funding for transit. So other communities generally use a sales tax option for public transportation, transit public benefit area, and PTBA, and they have up to 0.9% to use for those areas. And those are oftentimes bigger than cities. They might involve like urban growth areas. They might have paratransit needs in certain areas. And so they draw the boundaries in different communities in different ways. And so it's not really an apples to apples comparison. And a lot of communities have those as well as transportation benefit districts. And so again, we don't have many tools in our toolbox when it comes to funding transportation and transportation maintenance. We have more tools when it comes to funding transit than we do otherwise. So that really is just a resource page to say these are some of the options. We have enacted REIT 1 and REIT 2. We have what REIT 1 is for sidewalks, REIT 2 we've reserved for parks funding until we have something different in the area. And so again, Transportation Benefit District is typically the prime and the first order of business when it comes to funding local transportation.
And I think what would help, because I'm sensing that we may not be too far off for a hospital levy.
Dates and other, yes. So that
Yeah, just to kind of have an idea, because, we want to be careful about the timing. We want to be careful what we're taxing. We want to make sure that the tax sort of matches the use and, all of those factors that all of us have to do when we decide whether or not we're going to ask the voters to approve a tax, or I guess in this case, we have the opportunity to potentially make that part of that decision ourselves. But I think it's just important to understand the context, schools and hospital districts and fire districts and all of those pieces, because as they line up, these things are cumulative, obviously, and there's fatigue. So, okay, I think we are adjourned.